Okay, on to our state topic today. As technology continues to drive the state and national economic engine, Oregon must invest in its public school system to ensure that students possess the skills required for a successful transition into the workplace. Oregon's recent D grade for classroom technology and F grade for student and teacher access by Educator's Week Technology Assessment puts the state students at a real competitive disadvantage. What must the state do to reverse this important student and teacher skill base?
Well, they're going to eventually have to raise this, and I know they're going to hear a big groan from a lot of kids and parents out there, but the state standards are going to have to change somewhat and possibly be increased in that if you go into almost any classroom in the state of Oregon, the chance of actually finding enough computers in that classroom, whether it's science or English or whatever, that every student can get on one or even two on one is pretty nil. It just doesn't exist because of the cost to districts and keeping up with new technology and the software and all that stuff. But it's going to be necessary because I don't think there's a business around anymore that doesn't have some of their operation based in a computer. And having kids coming out that are not literal in that is just says your chance of getting a job that's going to be upwardly mobile and all is going to be next to nothing. And that takes, of course, training the teachers. Because if the teachers don't know what's going on and how to do what they need to do, and they don't have the skills because it's not part of what the district mandate is, or the district isn't training them, whatever, when you have unskilled teachers, whether it's teaching science or teaching computers or English or whatever, they're not going to be able to pass on anything to the students that are in those classrooms. So the state has an immense job of turning itself around in terms of getting there, and it's not just money. This is where parents need to stand up and say, this is what we need for our children in the classroom, and go to their school board and say, instead of building a ball diamond for $180,000 over somewhere, let's take that $180,000 and do something positive with it by moving more people into the places that they need to be, so they're intelligent enough for when they get out, they can go find a job, or they can go out to college, or they have a skill base.
But even that solution seems to suggest it's about the money, and I disagree. I take exception to that. At over $10,000 per student that Oregon pays, there's plenty of money in the system.
Which we bring up a lot, right? In lots of other shows we've talked about how we spend the most money of our students. We're right up there at the top.
But if you don't have the infrastructure.
We do. Well, it's about priorities, how the money is spent.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Part of that, I think, goes back to the way in which the school districts are run. And, under our kind of teacher union model, seniority is what decides which teachers stay on and which teachers get promoted. It's not about a performance. And I think that, again, the free market needs to have a vote here. Parents need to be able to move their kids to high-performing schools. Some of the cities, some of the schools in this area are dragging down the others in terms of those achievement grades. Inner city Portland, particularly Northeast Portland, some of the Portland public schools, they're performing not so well. Lots of dropouts, lots of low performance. But in Beaverton and Hillsborough, many of the districts around the state are doing a pretty good job.
Well, they have newer schools. They have a lot of school bonds, so they're getting more money, right?
But look at all the kids that are winning the spelling bees are all the homeschooled kids. So again, it's not about the money. It's not about the buildings. It's about the way in which the education is being approached. And I think the more we empower parents to be able to get their kids into schools that are being productive and doing a good job, and the less dependent we become on the same old models that have been thrust upon us for decades, I think the more opportunity for growth and improvement exists.
I have to tell you, my second grader, for the parent-teacher conference, had to give me a PowerPoint presentation.
Good.
Well, that's what it should
I
be.
was stunned with the animation and sound and everything. He gave us a PowerPoint presentation as part of our parent-teacher conference.
That's the way it should be.
So, yes,
Well,
Matt,
that was what I
review.
was going to say, was how many PowerPoint presentations has the typical high school student in Oregon performed by the time they graduate? I mean, is there any mandate, any requirement? I think it's silly that anybody would leave an Oregon high school and never have been required to put together a PowerPoint. Matter of fact, I'd make them do a couple a year so that they've done dozens of them by the time they leave. I mean, it's those kinds of ideas, right? how many internet searches? You know, I mean, give a list, give an assignment where you have like 23 things that are totally, they have nothing to do with each other, but you have to find the answer, and the answer is somewhere on the internet, and you have to learn how to use a search engine, right, and do it in a certain amount of time. I mean, are we even trying to teach those skills?
You got to have the computers access that they can do that.
Well,
and it shouldn't be just in a computer center.
If you can build the school, I've seen some of these schools that get built for $90 million. These are very expensive schools. They can have computers in them.
Cyber scavenger hunt, right?
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, the model I would use here is look at the community colleges, right? I mean, they are much more in tune to what Mike's talking about. They look and they say these students need skills out there in the workplace.
Or work with the employers.
What are the employers telling us that we need to do? And what you find is that community colleges tend to be fairly dynamic, changing and opening up seats and saying we need more nursing. We need to expand the nursing school. I mean, they are responding to what they see the need out there is. But the K through 12 system is much more insular. I mean, who in the high school systems are doing that asking that same question? You know, what kind of life skills do these kids need that we could be teaching?
And that's the school board's responsibility to do that stuff. So I also blame the school boards for having zero vision in terms of they're so dealing with, oh my, we got this money, how do we spend it, rather than what's our long-term approach to making students available for the 21st and 22nd centuries.
Well, and when there's more money given to government, and the same for cities, public employees' retirement system is out of control, and so that soaks up some of that money. And here you're a group of teachers, and you say, well, now let's see, we got a little extra money here in the district. Do we want to do technology, or do we want to make sure we don't have a copay and
give ourselves raises,
and the taxpayers pay $1,000 for their
You have to remember that most teachers traded off raises. And I know I was there, the school board and the school district in Portland said, listen, in lieu of giving you a raise, which you really should get because you aren't meeting the cost of living, we're going to put in your retirement for you so you don't have to. Therefore, quote, you're getting a raise in that, you know, you don't have to put that money in for yourself. The teachers actually, I was there, didn't want that to happen because they saw down the line what was going to happen was that instead of getting raises when you get them like everybody else, they are going to be shuffling under the school boards are going to be shuffling under the table to give them these non-raise raises.
But you don't consider a step increase a raise?
A step increase is different than a raise. I'm talking about across the board. If the cost of living goes up 3%, teachers get a 3% raise.
I need to cut you off.